Hi everybody, this is Jeremy Baker, and you know the ice has melted off finally in many areas, and many areas out there you finally have some open water and you're ready to get back out fishing. And that might be one of the main reasons why I've been getting two particular questions asked a lot recently. One of those questions I've been getting asked a lot is what type of lures you should be using as you head out into the spring fishing season. Secondly, I've been getting asked by a lot of beginners out there what type of lures they should be bringing out as they head out and try to catch their first fish. Now, instead of creating two videos and trying to answer both those videos or answer both those questions separately, I decided to create kind of a new video series. This video series is going to center around what type of lures I'm going to be taking out fishing with me in these current conditions. For example, right now, the conditions in my area, even though I've got a lot of open water in the Denver metro area, the water in this area is still pretty relatively cold. A lot of the water is actually still below 40 degrees out there. So that's what this video is going to be about. I'm going to go over some of the lures that I'm going to be personally taking out in these cold water conditions. Now, with the cold water temperatures here in my area, the bass are going to be pretty lethargic, which means they're more than likely not going to be wanting to chase around their prey. So they're not going to be really chasing around a lot of the lures, fast reaction type lures and so forth, which is why there's one group of lures that I won't be bringing with me. And it just happens to be my favorite lures to fish with, and that's topwater lures. As much as I love fishing topwater lures, I usually really don't start fishing these lures until the water temps out there reach around that 50-degree mark. So these buzz baits, topwater walking baits, and my frogs, they're going to stay home. They're not even going to go inside my tackle bag. So let's go ahead and go over what I will be bringing with me and the lures I'll be mainly focusing on as I head out to the cold waters and try to catch some cold water bass. One of the first lures I pick up when I go cold water bass fishing is a suspending jerkbait. One of the great things about these jerkbaits, as the name implies, is these jerkbaits will suspend in the water column, remaining in the strike zone basically for as long as you like. So basically how I fish these jerkbaits in the cold water situations is I'll cast them out, and once they hit the water, I'll reel them back a couple times to kind of pull them down into the depth that I want them to be. Once they're at the depth that I want to be, I'll give these jerkbaits a couple of jerks, maybe one or two, sometimes three jerks, and then I'll let it pause. And I'll usually let it pause for about anywhere between 10 to 30 seconds and sometimes longer. What you want to do is allow the bass to dictate how long that pause should be. Now, the jerkbaits that I like fishing with the most are the Lucky Craft Pointer series. And the two sizes I like the most are the 100 size and the 90 size. Those two sizes are the ones that do best for me. These Lucky Craft jerkbaits are really made really well. I really like the color variations they come with. They come with really great hooks, and they work really well. Now, the key to fishing these jerkbaits is to make sure you fish it out in some clear water. The fish need to see these jerkbaits, so if you've got some heavily stained or murky water, you want to move on to something else. So when I come across those dirtier water situations, I'll go to some of my other favorite cold water lures. Okay, so if the water's a little too stained for a suspending jerkbait, the next lure that I usually reach for is a lipless crankbait. These lipless crankbaits are great cold water lures to use, especially around grassy areas. One of my favorite ways to fish these lipless crankbaits is with a slow yo-yo presentation. So basically what I do is I cast it out, let the crankbait fall down towards the bottom or towards the grassy area. And then what I'll do is I'll slowly lift it up back through the water column with my pole, and then allow it to fall back down and flutter back down through the water column. And a lot of times it's on this fall and descent is when the bass is going to strike this lure. Another way I like to fish these lipless crankbaits in cold water situations is if there's no grass around, then just go ahead and cast it out and then just slowly reel it back to you. Allow that lipless crankbait to come back to you slowly along the bottom, and even allow it to hit some of the rocks and so forth down on the bottom. A lot of times after you hit something on the bottom, that's when the fish is going to strike that crankbait in cold water. My favorite lipless crankbait to use in these cold water weather conditions is the Strike King Red Eye Shad. Now, I go with the half-ounce version, and I try to stick with the red and black color combinations. The one you see here is my favorite color combination, and this is Strike King Orange Crawl color combination, and this is the one that works best for me in these cold water conditions. Another lure that I like to fish these early spring cold water conditions, and it's probably the lure that's caught me the most fish in these conditions, is a jig. Now, the way I like to fish these jigs in cold water situations is basically just cast it out and let it hit the bottom and then just slowly retrieve it back. Slowly retrieve it back, but don't retrieve it with your reel. Just slowly drag it back with your rod, pulling your rod back. And a lot of times what I'll do too is as I'm pulling it back, I'll stop and let it pause for a good 10 to 20 seconds. And a lot of times it's on this pause that the fish is going to strike that jig. Now in terms of size that I like to fish with in cold water conditions, I usually go with a 3/8 ounce or ½ ounce jig. Now in terms of color schemes, I really like your natural colors, your browns and your greens, but the color scheme that works best for me is the black and blue color scheme. And overall, my favorite jig to fish with is a NewTek Pro Series jig, and I like to pair that up with a Zoom Super Chunk or a Zoom Chunk trailer. Next up, if the fish are not hitting the jigs, then usually what I'll do is I'll move on to a Texas Rig soft plastic. The soft plastics I'll be carrying with me this early spring season will be the Zoom Brush Hogs, the Gambler Ugly Otters, the Gambler Mega Daddies, and the smaller Gambler BB Crickets. Now these are my personal favorites, so feel free to try these out, but just take out your favorite creature or crawl type soft plastic and Texas Rig those up, and then just fish them like I do the jigs. Basically what I do is I just use my pole to slowly drag these Texas Rig soft plastics along the bottom, and I have some pauses in between. And a lot of times, once again, the fish will hit these soft plastics when they're paused on the bottom. Now as for colors, I like to use the green pumpkins and watermelon reds, and also the darker colors like the black and blues and the Junebug type colors. Alright, last but not least, the Shaky Head Rig. Shaky heads are one of the best slow finesse fishing techniques out there, and is a great technique to use anytime you're having trouble finding the bite, especially in these early spring cold water conditions out there. Now the bite on these rigs can be pretty light, so it's best to use a medium or medium light spin gear. Keep an eye on the line and just be ready to set your hook. My favorite plastics to use on these Shaky Head rigs are the Zoom Trick Worms. Now, when you're using the Zoom Trick Worms, make sure you use the original versions and not the super salted versions, as the super salted versions, they don't float. And although I haven't tried them yet, I'm also going to be taking out this early spring season the Biospawn Plasma Tails for the first time. And I'll let you guys, everybody know how these work out for me. Again, for colors, I like the greens, the watermelon reds, and your darker black blues, Junebugs, and purple colors. Okay, thanks everybody for watching, and please feel free to put any questions, comments, or suggestions down in the comment section below. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up, and please subscribe to my channel if you want to see more videos like this one, along with some more unboxing videos, gear review videos, and of course some more fishing videos. Once again, this is Jeremy Baker. Thanks for watching.